Daddy long that guy. And shout out to Real Life Crew.
Hey, you're one of 12 listeners of the Real Life Podcast.
Yeah, you know what? To define that better, I think the key there is... Zero cat. I just lost my train of thought.
Welcome to the Nation Real Life Podcast. Tyler Yaremchuk alongside me, Wanye, Jay. We got an exciting one. We got two former Oilers in here.
Unbelievable.
In the second half of the podcast, we're going to be chatting with Joaquin Gage. But first, we have a gentleman. 20 games in the NHL, 362 in the American Hockey League. That's a hell of a pro career. Couple years in Europe as well. He was a part of easily the best World Junior team Canada has ever assembled. Shawn Belle, former Oiler. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making your way on down.
Yeah, it was a journey to get here.
I couldn't believe Little Brick was a real place, you were saying.
No idea. I had no idea this was here.
It's Little Brick is by definition a destination. Everyone driving by doesn't like, well, I'm just in a bunch of houses. Am I in the right place? And well, Little Brick is a house. So we are hidden in plain sight. Something we should probably precondition guests about is our intro. You probably heard that and are like, what the fuck was that I just listened to? That pile of
It's
random,
high quality.
Yeah, it's high quality. There's stories behind it.
It's the top podcast at Little Brick intro. Of all the podcasts here, that's number one.
It's by
Easily.
country mile.
Yeah.
But it's Bob Nicholson. When he's doing a radio hit with Stauffer on that, right?
No, Gregor.
With Gregor.
Yeah.
And then in the background, his phone's ringing. And since Nicholson's an old man, it says who's calling. And in the background, it goes, Daryl Katz.
And it was right when Gregor was pressing him on what the culture of the Oilers was. And
What does it mean to be an Oiler? And he bumbled and fumbled, and then Daryl Cates phoned him, and he really bumbled.
It's the best because I saw Stauffer at the outlet mall probably about a month ago. I was with my girlfriend at the time, fiance now.
Congrats.
And thank you very much. And Staff was talking. I've known Staff for a very long time. And all of a sudden his phone starts ringing and he just pulls open his phone. He shows it to me. He's like, I better answer that, hey? And I'm like, yeah, it's Keith Gretzky. I get it, but you're a big deal.
Yeah.
Weird flex, but okay.
You're Gary Bettman. I get it.
And then he proceeded not to answer it. So that was the best part about it.
Oh, man.
Double flex.
That's the most Stauffer story I've ever heard. That's great. So you're an Edmonton guy through and through. Like, you started playing your minor hockey here. You're back here coaching. You were with the Crusaders. You were with Nate. Now you're with the OHA thing. You're just a 100% Edmontonian.
Yeah, born and raised. Some days I wonder why I still live here, especially after this summer. But
It was a great hour.
Yeah, it was a great hour.
Beautiful.
Sun. It was
I had a good
awesome.
time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to turn my heat on yesterday, so I wasn't real happy about that. But no, born and raised in Edmonton. I love it here. The people that you meet are fantastic. Everywhere I've gone, somebody's always brought up, just hockey, and they're just so passionate about, that sport in general. And I honestly just really love it here.
We'll get to your career kind of arc in a minute, but I'm looking at like all the European places that you played. I think going away to where you have actual culture shock makes you appreciate home more. Did you find that as well?
Oh, 100%. It's funny you say that because even when I went over there, I really enjoyed the places that I played. Obviously, I liked Germany more than some of the other places that I was at, but it was such a different experience. And then when you got home, you're just like, wow, this is actually a really nice place, and you appreciate it way more.
Especially in a career where you're forced to move, right? Like pro athletes, I talk about it a lot. Like it's probably one of the few jobs you have where you get a phone call. It's like, hey, remember your life and how you're doing so well? Yeah, 180-degree turn, you're on your way out. Like that doesn't happen to anybody else.
Yeah, it's different.
When you get dealt that card a lot in life, like you probably moved around a lot from the age of what to what? When did you actually get to come home and settle?
From the time I was 15, because that was my first games in WHL, until basically when I was 30. So for a while.
That's unbelievable. And so now you've got roots.
Now I've got roots.
And now you got a house.
I've got a house. Well, I've had the house for 12 years.
Oh, nice.
So I bought it early.
Smart.
Actually, that was advice from Shawn Brown.
Yeah.
So he gave me that advice, and he's just like, don't be that athlete that, buys 15 cars and tries to spend it on vacations. Make sure you buy a house first and then kind of go from there. And that's what I did. And it's actually served me very well.
So did you leave it empty every season when you left? Did you have buddies stay there and be like, I'm going to kill you if you put a nail in the wall?
Yeah, I had some people living in there. I rented it out a few times to, I think like people from Bird Construction.
Oh yeah.
So they're here doing some projects. A couple times it was to a friend, and And that's when you just start to see the buddies come rolling in,
Yeah.
and sending pictures. You're shaking your plants, and you're like, you guys might want to leave right now.
Yeah, I can be home in like 6 hours with one connecting flight. There's going to be trouble.
How was that house in its first few years in the off season? Was that just like where was that HQ for you and your buddies?
Oh, 100%. There were so many times where guys would just show up randomly, and they're, drunk, and they're trying to like put barbecue sauce on the walls because, like 20-year-olds are dumb.
Oh, dumb as they get.
Yeah, and just weird stuff. And you're like, why are you doing this to my house? And I'm going to get you back when you get your house.
Yeah. In 10 years.
Yeah.
It was always like we had buddies in the NHL growing up. When they would come home, it was so fun. Right, it was like everybody spread it, like went out to wherever, and then they would all reassemble. And it was like the fun of the summer of having that countdown. And then it's like, hey, one more week till I have to start working out again. I can't be a
100%.
degenerate with you guys.
Yeah,
then we all felt like we had to clean our lives up too.
It was HQ right before you'd go to Iron Horse every single Friday, Saturday.
Oh, nice.
We had Bucky last week name dropping bars too all over the place.
Oh, and Yaremchuk had no idea what anything was. He's laying down like, oh yeah, where was it?
Ezzy's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of
Malibu.
Ezzy's at least.
Club Malibu, yeah.
Club Malibu?
Oh yeah, he was dropping those down. Yeah, he told the story. Club Malibu Grand Central Station, right? The one that became the ranch.
No, there was no Malibu ever there. There's no.
What was there before the ranch? The big country.
Berry Tees.
Berry
wasn't
Tees.
it?
Berry
Yeah.
Tees.
Berry Tees.
Yeah.
He was talking about Club Malibu University.
Which was the one across from Steel Wheels.
Yeah,
the
which
Armory.
one? Yeah.
Remember?
Oh, yeah, the Armory.
Yeah. Now it's like a place for troubled youth. And
Oh, for sure
It
it is.
used to be a place for troubled youth too. They sold booze too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go there.
I also I want to shout out because we're actually going to probably have a proper interview today because Chalmers, we can actually talk this week.
Nice.
Yeah, Chalmers isn't around.
It's a very noticeable omission this week. It's going to be very nice. So Chalmers, thank you for not being here so we can actually do a proper interview with with a valued guest and not ruin it.
Our missing buddy lectured Ladislav Schmid on what it meant to be an Oiler.
Yeah.
He'd played in a tournament in the Czech Republic and asked Schmid if he'd played in it at that age. And Schmid's like, no, I didn't make it. And goes like, yeah, it's for pretty elite 12-year-olds. Like, you probably didn't make the grade. We're like, what are you doing, man? So you got the easy week this week, the week off. Yeah. So where did you play minor hockey in Edmonton?
I started off with Millwoods.
Yeah.
And then around
Novice?
Pee-wee. Yep, a novice.
Yeah, right in the game early.
Adam, and then at Pee-wee I left and went to KC. Not for any particular reason. I just ended up going to KC. And then that's where I played Pee-wee, Bantams, and then off to juniors.
And were you like a very heralded Adam? And were they like, you should see Shawn Belle. He scored 14 goals the other night.
Well, not so much in Adam. I started to kind of come into my own in Pee-wee. But I also had a couple other guys that I played with. Like, we had 5 guys that were really good. Myself, Dan Waschuk, Kyle Teague, Andrew Levitt, and Danny Smith. And like those guys were like really good. Like Waschuk was bigger than me. And I think I might have been like, I don't know, 5'8", 5'9" at Pee-wee, and Waschuk might have been 6 feet. Like he was a massive human being, and we had some really good teams.
When you're coming up like that and you're playing in a city like Edmonton where like I think you can fly under the radar in some markets. You're like, I'm a pretty good athlete, but I live in, wherever you might pick. Like I live in Orange County. And so it's like cute that I play hockey, but it's like confusing to my neighbors. But then if you're in Edmonton and you're like when did the hype start around you when you were growing? Like when all of a sudden was it like going to the rink and there's parents in the crowd that might be a little bit crazy and like that kind of situation?
Well, the crazy parents were there right from the start. So
novice.
Yeah.
Because you're always on a rep team, right?
You're always on a rep team, and the crazies are always there, and they're always trying to get their kid to do something a little bit better. So those guys are always there. But for me, where I started to kind of recognize the notoriety was kind of in Bantam, my first year Bantam. And actually, no, that's
still
a
with
lie.
KC at this point? Yeah.
Yep, that was a lie, though. It was when we went to the Quebec tournament.
You went to the Quebec tournament?
Yeah, so
cool.
we got to be
signing
the Edmonton
autographs
Oilers.
and stuff?
Yep. Yeah. So we got to be the Edmonton Oilers.
Did you have a card?
We didn't have cards.
Okay.
No.
So what were you signing? Programs?
We were signing programs. Some of the guys were signing females. Yeah,
Starts young.
we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Pee-wee's big time.
Yeah,
Oh,
some
yeah.
pants and stuff like that. So
nice.
it was a very interesting time, and that's kind of when you start to recognize, like, okay, there's something going on here. And then once that first year Bantam hit, and then you started seeing all the scouts in the stands, and they were trying to talk to your parents and this and that, and guys were coming up to you and talking to you and just see how you're doing. You're like, okay, well, I think maybe there's a little bit of notoriety around.
I feel like that Pee Wee tournament is where like each year a year of like global hockey elite kids become men. They go to Quebec. Like Ladislav Schmid was on the show and he was talking about, he's like, I went to that tournament in Quebec. That was crazy. Like a lot of people who go there when you're a little kid, like it opens your eyes.
It gets referenced a lot. And I know
the
like
brick tournament too. Did you play in that?
I played in the brick tournament as well.
Oh wow. Jeez, you're living my dream.
Because you're not signing boobs at the brick tournament. You're not signing a coloring book.
Yeah. I remember growing up, like anyone who went to the Quebec tournament, I'm just like, oh my God, like this is like celebrity status. There was a guy in our school that did. I was like, this kid's the coolest kid, and he played at outdoor rink, and I'm like, oh my God, like it's like as a youth, like, and even like still as adults reflecting, like that tournament is so actually crazy in terms of the talent that goes through.
For a lot of kids, it's first time in a plane.
Yeah,
100%.
You're bringing your sticks in the airport. You're like, I am Sidney Crosby or whoever it is of that generation, right?
Yeah, we lost to Rick Nash's team.
12-year-old Rick Nash.
Yeah, Toronto Marlboros. I still remember that because I got a penalty with like, I don't know, 2.5 minutes left. And I came out of the box and I got a breakaway and I missed. And then they went back down and scored. Game over.
Rick
that
Nash?
was the semifinals. I don't know if it was Rick Nash at all, but
Rick Nash.
Yeah.
Was there anyone else like between the brick and the Pee Wee tournament that you like played against and you remember like, okay, yeah, you played against Rick Nash. Was there anyone else?
From the brick tournament, there was Dustin Bufflin. Oh. He was there. Phanom was on
Little
my
Big
team.
Buff.
Little Big Buff.
Yeah.
was he just crushing dudes then?
Oh yeah, he was crushing guys.
And he was a forward then too.
He was a forward at that time. Nigel Dawes was there,
yeah.
and he was like probably the phenom.
He's
of all
lighting up the
phenoms.
KHL still.
Exactly.
I can imagine that age group, and like basically I'm imagining like you present day sitting next to like a normal 12-year-old who looks over like, I'm gonna get fucked up today. Like this is not gonna go well for me. Some kids just develop, right?
Yeah,
and they have a mustache and they're like 8. Yeah.
For whatever reason, I feel like my age group was just very big.
Yeah.
Like Bufflin was massive human being. Phanom was massive. Brent Seabrook was massive. He played for the Vancouver Vipers, so he was in that tournament. Like Dawes was the same size he is now. So like it was just a massive age group for whatever odd reason.
It's got to be amazing to see. Now you're drafted 30th overall, correct?
Yep.
So to imagine as a pyramid, all the little kids when you started out, when you were a novice, all around the world in markets that are like, I am going to play in the NHL, and you're like the top 30 of the kids your age globally. You ever sit back and reflect and just be like, oh, those little kids at the rink can kiss my ass because when time turns out, I was better than all of you. Like what you've done with your career is such a 0.0001%. Do you ever sit back and reflect on it?
From time to time,
Yeah.
It was a great accomplishment, and it was an honor to be drafted at that high of a position, and just to even play professional hockey. Because a lot of guys have careers that are 1, 2, 3 years, and then
You're
they're
15.
done. And I was pushing 10, 12 years. So it was, and the only reason I really stopped was because I got injured.
Yeah.
I mean, I sit back and I say, okay, well, I could probably still play. I feel like I can at least, and I look at guys that I grew up with, and they're still playing over there. If you get to Europe and you get in good spots, like you can have a 10, 15-year career just in Europe alone, and
free Audis and cool apartment buildings and tax-free everything. You're in the European Union. You're flying around everywhere on the weekends. I think it's a much better life than people actually like give it credit for.
100%, but you got to find the right spot. And I got lucky. I ended up in Mannheim, which is probably one of the top places in Germany to play hockey, and they treat you like royalty.
The Tigers?
Adler Mannheim, so it's Adler Eagles or Mannheim Eagles.
What's the capacity of the arena? What are you guys drawing?
I think in that one there was 16,000.
Wow.
So they're one of the top spots. Cologne was 18. I think they're one of the biggest arenas in Europe.
And drawn like pretty
and they're
full?
drawn, when we played Cologne, it would always be 18,000. Wow. And they're always singing and dancing. So like when you watch the Oilers play Cologne this year, that's exactly the same atmosphere that we would have. You could add a little bit more to it because it was a big time rivalry. I think a little bit sometimes when NHL teams go over there, they're subdued a little bit because they're a little bit of shock and in awe of watching some of these players come over, and they're like, well, I see this guy on TV. I never get to see him up close. I think sometimes when you watch those games, you're a little bit more subdued, but if you get a rivalry game, it's crazy.
So let's rewind back. So you're approaching your junior draft age. So you're playing Bantam.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, this is the season where I'm going to establish myself. Did you expect in your head going into the year, I'm going to be drafted? What was your hopes?
Well, I'd actually started to have conversations with an agent from around here. And so he was kind of just updating me along the season. There was Coburn, who was playing in think it was in Notre Dame. There was Myers. He was also there in Notre Dame. So those were the two big fish that were out there. Phenom was obviously starting to pick up some steam. And so like they kind of said, you're going to be in the first round. We just don't know where. So I ended up getting drafted 10th overall to Regina.
Were you pumped?
I was really pumped. It was because
Did you go to the draft? What do you do on draft?
No, there was no draft at the time.
No draft.
Yeah. Now it's a little bit different. You know, they get phone calls and it's a little
How
bit
did you
bigger,
find out?
bigger deal. Somebody from Regina called me, told me that I was drafted there, and they're excited to have me. And you know, it was an eye opener right out of the gates because I was like, oh, okay, like this is getting crazy. And you know, Barrett Jackman was their captain.
That guy's intense.
He was very intense, right? And so then you're just like, oh, okay, like you're deer in the headlights.
Did you expect to make the team your first year reporting?
No, I didn't. I honestly had no idea what to expect. And I remember walking there. Actually, Dan Yaremchuk got drafted with me, which was actually hilarious. So we'd grown up together through KC, and we were really good friends. And so we ended up going to camp together, and that was just it was good to have him there because it made it a little bit more comfortable. But, you know, just having those guys around, and our first camp was in a place called White City. And it's funny because the first camp, there was tons of fights. Regina led the league in fights that year. And because I'm a big kid, you know, guys are trying to go after me. And I remember that one of the guys came up and said, hey, Shawn, don't worry about this. We got this. And like the next, I think 3 shifts in a row, there was just fights. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, I'm confused right now. Like I'm fine. Like no one's doing anything, but they just decided that they wanted to handle it because I was the guy that was coming in, right?
Sick.
So it was awesome because I felt part of the team.
Welcome to the Pats.
Right away, exactly. Yeah. So that was awesome.
Well, you played in the dub when it still had some teeth.
Yeah.
Like it's still like of all the 3 leagues, I still think I always, you know, I'm a Western boy, but I always put WHL in terms of like still like got a tougher element to it, but like
that crazy Quebec Senior League that's owned by bikers, and then the dub, and then the rest of them. Right?
Yeah. Because when I was there at 15 years old, I played 4 games for Regina, and 3 of them had line brawls. And the worst one was in Moose Jaw.
Yeah.
And I remember having, like, I had the full bubble on, and I just all of a sudden heard, I got the 15-year-old, and I'm like looking around, and somebody's
Nothing good has ever happened starting with I got the 15-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was 2000, 2001. So we had Bucky on, who's a former Warrior, and we talked about our other buddy who played for the Warriors too, Brian Sotheby. Yep. He was a little bit physical. Was he involved in that line brawl?
I honestly don't remember. He might have actually been away for the World Juniors because I know Jackman was away, and all the guys were saying there's way more tame of a game when he was not there.
Yeah, Suds was crazy.
Oh yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
I just like I've got lots of family in Moose Jaw. I grew up a Warriors fan as a kid. I just know like whenever the Pats were in town, especially in like the Crush Can, like you played.
We stole that sign off the Crush Can.
Yeah,
that's from the Crush Can.
From the Crush Can.
Oh yeah, Smitty's Warrior jersey over there. Love little Moose Jaw.
Yeah, just I know it was just intense, and like the rivalries back then were just like exactly that, line brawls. Like you're hearing stories of Moose Jaw against Regina in the first round of the playoffs. They're in Regina. And in the ceremonial face-off, the Moose Jaw center wins the draw.
Yeah, on purpose.
Just to like set the total, like not today, like
disrespectful.
We're in your barn, we're coming for you, and like it's just funny when you hear that shit.
That's just what the dub was at the time, though. Like you walk in and you knew there was going to be 10 fights. Like I played with a guy, Matt Sommerfeld, and this is when I was in Tri-City, and we traded for him, and he came in and he said, "You know what, guys, I'm going to try to break the record for penalty minutes." Oh, okay, that's a lofty goal. And I believe he played half the games and he had 273 PIMs. Oh. And so like he was fighting all the time, but that's just standard practice in the dub at that time.
If one dub game from that era was played now, they'd be landing like the Coast Guard on the roof of the arena, and they would encircle the arena with troops, and everybody there would have to go get PTSD counseling and shit.
Now that's 273. They weren't issuing 10s yet then, were they?
10s was pretty hard to get. Like you had to commit murder for that.
God, yeah, you grew up in the jungle, man. Like it's just crazy.
So how long were you in Regina for?
I was only there for the 4 games. They were hosting a Memorial Cup that year, so they traded all their young guys away because they had to load up and make sure they had that run. So I was there for the 4 games. I got traded to Tri-City, played an extra 2 there as a 15-year-old. against Prince George.
That's
So,
amazing. You made both
That's
two
crazy.
teams in the dub at 15. Like, you
Yeah,
were
it was-
no joke.
It was interesting. It was, just the difference between the two teams. Like with Regina, you knew that they were trying to do something special. With Tri-City, we were just a rebuilding team with, 10 tough guys.
Sure.
And so you walk in, like Nasty Morasti was one of my teammates in Tri-City, and he was fighting Bugard every chance he got. Once again, lion brawl there. But yeah, it was just a different world. Even between the two teams, it was still a different world, but just one was way more physical than the other.
So you had you played with Tri-City then for how long after?
I was there for 4 years after, once
yeah.
I started.
And kind of walk us through your time there for those who maybe are unfamiliar. How did it go?
Well, so the first year was, have you ever seen the movie Major League?
Yeah.
So our owner was like that. He wanted to move the team to Victoria, so he was trying to spend as little money as possible. It was a franchise that was really in flux, but we had some really good players coming through. When Bob Torrey got there, he decided that he was going to get rid of all the tough guys. So Nasty Morasti got traded up for Scott Kelman, which was unheard of because it was a tough guy for a guy that ended up scoring 90 points, and it was just 1 for 1. And so he made some really good deals like that, and we started to add some skill. So once that first owner left, we brought in.
He failed in his attempt.
He failed in his attempt.
Unloaded the squad.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And then the next year, Brian Burke, Glenn Sather, they ended up buying the team. They wanted to move it to Chilliwack.
Bastards.
Exactly.
Nobody's showing Tri-City
Right?
any love.
And we had actually a really terrible season. Like that was my draft year, and it was an awful season. We had 2 12-game losing streaks. Guys didn't want to be around. It was really ugly.
To go 30th on a team like that is
It was bad.
even more impressive.
Yeah, it was not good. There was bar fights everywhere. It was really, really
amongst
bad.
teammates.
I remember there's one game we played in Kamloops right at the Christmas break, and all the older guys went to the bar because you have to be 19 to go there. And I remember looking out the window for whatever odd reason, and all of a sudden I see 4 or 5 of our guys in a bar fight against a bunch of other guys, and like getting the wheels beat off of them.
Oh shit!
And I'm like, oh, okay, well, guys, we got to go.
Yeah.
And I remember like running downstairs, and by the time we got outside, the situation has turned. Like our guys
They're on
were,
top.
yeah,
Nice.
it was really ugly. But at that point now, our whole team's out there,
Yeah.
and you're like, this is not going to go very well. And like that was the kind of stuff that was happening in Tri-City at that time.
Just the tail end of being able to get away with that. Now,
Exactly.
now half the little kids have
Yeah.
their phones out live streaming
Exactly.
the entire fight, and you all
Yeah.
go to Guantanamo for crying out loud, right?
Exactly. But then my third year, it all kind of turned around when we hired Don Knockbar. He was just like kind of no nonsense.
Coach?
He was, coach. And he really turned that franchise around, and it's basically what it is today. So
you mentioned like the time in Tri-City, the team was so bad, but then you almost like rose above that, like to go 30th overall, and then you were making World Junior teams not long after that. Was it frustrating for you to like be having the personal success, but then be on a team that was just like at the level Tri-City was?
yeah, it was a little frustrating. It would have been nice to have a little continuity with coaches. My time there, I think I had like 5 coaches in 4 years. So that was hard. And
Who does that sort of interrupt? Who does that remind you of?
I have read
Fucking
about it on a
rotating
very
door
good
of
website.
coaches, and a whole bunch of really young, gifted players can't quite seem to find their.
It's like an orange and blue team.
Yeah, there you go.
Could be, yeah.
Weird. I don't know.
But then you do get drafted.
Yeah. So I ended up getting drafted. Like
Did you go
honestly,
to the draft that time?
I
Obviously?
did.
Yes. What were
my-
your expectations going into that draft?
Well, like, so to start, like, my season wasn't good. Like, it was bad, and I kind of just picked it up towards the end of the season. I was able to kind of salvage a little bit of, my draft stock, because I think I had slipped to the second round.
From an all-time high of...
I was probably in the top 10 at one point,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of had a free fall.
It's hard and you're not in a winning team.
Yeah, and it's hard when you don't have, like, stability with coaching. Like, you're trying to constantly learn different schemes and strategies, and this guy believes in this and this guy believes in that, and we want you to do this and we want you to do that. So like there's just no continuity in that sense. But I did go to the draft. My billets from Tri-City joined me there, and it was an unbelievable time. It was in Nashville.
Oh, wow.
And I actually had family there and I didn't even know. And so when I got there, my mom was like, I'm going to call your family. And I'm like, what family? She's like, well, we have a bunch of family here. And so then they came, showed up at the draft.
Cool.
And, yeah, it was really cool. And then when I got drafted, like they just cheered so loud, and it kind of took me back a little bit. So it was a pretty special moment.
That's an amazing moment.
Yeah, that's super. And what a city to have a draft in.
Oh yeah, it was
Can't go out though,
fantastic.
unfortunately.
Can't go out, though.
Can you?
Or
You
can
can't
you?
go out.
Exactly. Once you're drafted, you can go out anywhere.
We were down in Nashville a couple of years ago, and we walked in. We couldn't believe that each bar can make their own booze. You know that rule down there?
No.
So in Nashville and the whole state?
Oh, well, you're allowed. They all make their own moonshine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, you want some homemade Fireball whiskey that we made here in the bar? We're like, yes. This is
Yes, I
what
do.
a great place to be.
60%. Yeah. Oh, God.
What an amazing arena, though, to like open out onto that street of all the little honky tonk and country bars that were so important in the formation of country music. You can literally imagine people starting their career on one side of the street and peaking on the other side of the street.
100%. It was. It's a very cool city. It's one of those cities that now is like one of the fastest growing cities in America. And if you have a chance to go, like I'd highly recommend it.
We're going to work, maybe, it all depends on the schedule. 1 year, we will do a nation vacation to Nashville. This year it's Vegas.
Yeah, this year it's Vegas.
Next year.
Is that a vacation though?
Oh, yeah.
we
Nation
just-
trips are not a
It
vacation.
just rhymes, so we
Yeah.
just kind of gave it a catchy name. Yeah, Vegas. Yeah, Vegas and Nashville are definitely not vacations. You need to take a vacation after that one.
Yeah, it's like a pre-rehab party. Then you go on a nation trip, and then you come home, and then you got to clean your life up after.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's a Kickstarter to your own little self-cleansing program. Yeah, because it gives you the guilties.
It's your
and then,
pre-wake-up call.
Yeah. No, it's smart. But it's doctor approved and certified.
So you get drafted, and then after that, you start making those World Junior teams. What was that like going to those hockey? Because before the World Juniors, you were involved with Hockey Canada a bit with the U17s and stuff. But like the World Juniors is that pinnacle event. So what was that like getting there that first year?
Where was it your year?
My first year it was in Helsinki.
Sick.
So like so all the guys around the team, like we'd grown up together. It was very interesting how it worked. So, the under 17, Team Pacific, Team Ontario, Team East, for example, like all those guys that I made the team with, we all played against each other, kind of just growing up the whole way through. And for whatever reason, we just all bonded very, very quickly. And so that first year when we got to Helsinki, Crosby was a 16-year-old at the time, and guys really took to him very well.
In what way? What do you mean? Just because they're like, oh man,
he was just such Crosby? Yeah, he was such a nice kid, and at the same time, you're like, this guy's like a phenom, and he was making plays. You're just like, what?
So you're Shawn Belle, you're sitting there and you see a young Sidney Crosby and you're like, holy shit, I've never seen a human being do this type of stuff.
Yeah, it was just like his backhand was a missile back then too. He scored one goal where he was below the bottom of the circles and he went short side shelf with a backhand, and you're just like, wow, like that is an unbelievable shot. And the fanfare around him as well, that at that time all of our guys were just kind of like, okay, we need to kind of protect this guy and like insulate him, and because everybody was in awe of him.
It's amazing to see a kid like that who's the amount of pressure a Sidney Crosby or a Connor McDavid or somebody like that of that nature has had from such a young age, and to be able to go to however many little arenas all around where little guys are going to end Sidney Crosby tonight.
Yeah,
to live through that for as long as he did, you have to be such a special person in addition to your physical attributes.
Without question. The good thing about us with our team is we had actually some pretty physical players. Shea Weber was on that team, and Phaneuf was on that team, and there was guys that, if you took a liberty with Crosby, like they were coming for you. And I think a lot of times, and part of the mystique that we had was that we were just really, really physical. I remember in North Dakota, like we had actually knocked out Ovechkin out of the game. And
how old is Ovechkin?
He would have been 17 that year.
Yeah.
I remember that hit vividly.
Yeah.
I was watching that game.
Yeah, so he was taken out of the game. Malkin was there too, and then you had, okay, well, which defense pairing do you want to go against? You had Phaneuf and Weber was their first one, and then you had myself and Coburn, and then you had Seabrook and I think Severette at the time. So it's like, okay, well, pick your poison. Like, where do you want to go with this one?
No joke.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you didn't have guys that could, or enough lines that match up against us, it was just kind of like a snowball rolling downhill, and it was tough to stop.
Yeah, man, like that's so crazy to think of looking back now and like reading through that roster. The defense was sick when you remember what those guys were all like. And then the forward core too, like Jeff Carter, all those guys. Do you still look back now and kind of just like, damn, that's an impressive group?
Yeah, I was actually talking about this not too long ago. And the crazy part was, though, that Eric Fair and Ryan Stone actually led the entire Canadian Hockey League in scoring at the time. And I think they might have had like 100 points at Christmas, and they didn't even make the team. So like, if you think what you could have actually had, you know, and I'm not taking shots at anybody because all the players were awesome, but like, take 2 forwards away and put those 2 guys on, like how much more scoring potential would there have been?
Yeah, that's pretty intense. So coming out of there was the year you guys lost to the Americans, right? That was Helsinki.
Yep.
And then that next year you guys won it all.
Yep.
What was that redemption like, and like having that same group back for that almost redemption tour?
It was pretty disappointing because I think we carried the game. You know, and some of the goals that were scored, you know, the one rolls up Fleury's chest protector and rolls in behind him. The other one was off Coburn's face. You know, and it was just one of those things where you kind of like looked, you knew you probably should have won it. And the next year, it was just kind of a mission right out of the gates where we're like, hey, this is ours and nobody's going to take it from us. And everybody was motivated to take home the championship, because when we came back, we actually got the papers were just lighting us up because we were choke artists or whatever.
Yeah.
And we were just like, okay, well, these are fluky goals. It's not like we choked. It's just those things happen, and it's, you know, 9 times out of 10 they don't happen, but that one time it does, and it's in the back of your net. And so we were just very motivated, and yeah, like I said, it was a snowball rolling downhill.
We're Canadian World Junior fans. We like to assemble our best and brightest 17 and 18-year-olds, sprinkle in a couple 16-year-olds, put them on a pedestal, then shit on them over the Christmas break until we start the new year feeling good about ourselves.
That doesn't happen.
Called a bunch of 17-year-olds choke artists. It's my annual reset.
Yep.
Oh, I just look at that team and it's just all the names. It's so crazy, and just like the style of players I like that came out of it. But like, you know, you dealt with Crosby young, like at a younger age, but like, and we talked about his abilities and whatnot. But like, was he just like ultimate leader from day one, or just like work his ass off and just kind of led by example? Like, what was the kind of like playing under him?
Honestly, he didn't even have to be a leader. We just had so many guys that were leaders and captains on their team. Like Mike Richards was an awesome leader. Phaneuf did his own thing. Weber was an awesome guy. You know, you just go down the list, and everybody was kind of a captain or assistant on their own respective teams. And, you know, nobody really had to lead. Everybody just kind of said, hey, we're going to pull this thing together and we're going to go. Like Patrice Bergeron ended up on the team, and, you know, like
So much
he
depth.
was
Yeah,
he
okay.
was
So
an
you
ultimate
basically
leader.
have like all the best captains of the past 15 years on this
like
team.
it was, nobody really had to lead. It was everybody just kind of said, listen, guys, like this is where we're going, and get on.
Yeah, everyone just knew what to do.
Yeah.
So from the World Juniors, then your NHL career began quickly after that, and we only have about another 8 to 10 minutes here to talk about your NHL career, which is crazy.
We
how
may have
long
to do
we've
this
been
in a two-parter, sir, if you don't mind, because the people are going to be like, really, they went heavy on the minor hockey and then just sort of glossed over the back 15-year pro career.
The one thing I wanted to talk to you about, the word culture, it's like such a buzzword now around sports, really. You were around a lot of American League teams, a lot of NHL teams as well. Could you tell when you walked into a team, like, hey, I'm walking into the Montreal Canadiens room here, like, there is a culture here? And, like, could you tell when, like, a room was good and a room was bad just from, like, walking in it, kind of?
Yeah, more or less. One of the best rooms I was in was probably the Minnesota Wild room. There was some really good leaders there. Koivu, he was unbelievable. They invited you in with open arms, and, you know, you never felt like a rookie. And, you know, actually going back, thinking about it, because I wasn't there that long, but Dallas at that time, you know, you had Arnott, Guerin, you had Boucher, Barnes, like that group, that team there. From the minute I stepped foot in Dallas, I felt like I was part of the team. And, you know, it was easy. You just go, show up and be comfortable and, you know, let your skill shine. And then when you have teams where the culture is not great, you know, you're kind of walking on eggshells a little bit, because you never want to piss someone off or, you know, say something that's going to, you know, offend someone. And you don't put your best foot forward. And it's just what it is. It's not, you know, I don't think players are coming in to be, you know, to fail. Like, they show up and they kind of understand the dynamic of the team. And, you know, new players coming in or players coming from across the world, they come in and they see that. And a lot of times they just don't want to step on toes. And that's kind of when things go sideways. As
an organization, like as a program, regardless of league, what do you do? Like, are you even able, as an executive or coaching staff, you must register that your room is off? Like, can a coach walk in, look around a room, and be like, uh-oh?
Like, honestly, I don't even know if they really know that much. Like, coaches don't hang out in the room all day. Like, you know, the best thing you could do as a coach would be to, you know, get your work done early and make sure that you're available to be in the room all the time. But once the coaches are in the coaches room and the boys are in the dressing room, like, it's hard to tell. Like, you can tell that there may be some guys that don't like each other, but you don't really know if the culture's that bad. You know, if it's a party culture, for example, like, as a coach, do you really know that your guys are out till 4 o'clock in the morning every single day?
Well, I'd have chips in all their heads so I could track them from
Yeah,
space. That's just how I'd run my team. I don't know. Like,
if I was a coach, I'd put a bar ban on everybody, but you know that's not happening.
or a Fortnite ban in 2019 because everyone's so soft.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. Like, it's hard as a coach because there's so many different outlets and different resources for players to do what they want. So,
Fuck is ringing? You, me?
For some reason, my phone is hooked up to my computer.
My
phone will be on silent. My computer will
2019.
start ringing.
Unbelievable.
I gotta figure out how to
computer's
just
ringing.
connect that.
My fridge just got a
Jeez.
fax. I don't know what to tell you. Everything's linked.
I run a really loose game. Like, I can't hide anything because my device is connected to my toaster. Like, everything is fucking displayed everywhere.
We're going to wrap up right away, but the last part I wanted to touch, Edmonton guy coming back and eventually playing in
Just
Edmonton.
hold on. Let me interrupt.
Okay.
Will you come back, please?
Yeah,
We're having a
100%.
great time.
Can we do a part
100%.
two?
One guest in 10 months. We have 2 guests in 1 day. This is our busy season. Like, this is exciting. Will you please come back? I don't want to gloss over the back because I think this is very interesting and going well. But Joaquin Gage is here, and this is going to turn into a situation. So
Absolutely.
Can we book a part 2?
Yep, for sure.
All right. Now go ahead, Yaremchuk.
Getting a chance to come back and play with the Oilers, it was brief, but still, like, what was that like when you signed that deal to come back and play in Edmonton?
I was very excited. To have a chance to play in front of my friends and family, I was, beyond the moon. That was what I wanted, and it went the way it went.
Now you're back here coaching with the OHA 15s. What's kind of been the beginning of process of that, and what's that been like getting used to that age group?
Well, that age group is something else. Before I even started, I had to deal with bullying on Snapchat. So that one really got me.
Do you look at a 15-year-old hockey player when you were a 15-year-old? Now you look at a 15-year-old hockey player as a 35-year-old and go, what the heck?
They're a different breed.
Yeah.
They're a different breed. It's all social media, and it's all the time. And you got to just make sure that you can clamp down on that, because as soon as that is figured out and solved, then the rest of it goes smooth. But that social media is a different beast.
So and I don't have any kids I talk to, so I don't really know or care how kids need to be raised. But you're saying if you have 15-year-olds, if you do not have a grip on their social media, you are fucked?
Yep.
What do you mean? Like, you're watching?
Well, so
here's
here's an
example. Coach is snooping on.
Exactly. I was at HP1, so my coaching certificate here in Alberta, and Michael Chan, who works for the Edmonton Oil Kings, was there, and he was talking about the curfews for their team. So what they wanted to do was, okay, at 11 o'clock, you got to send a pin of where you are. So
2019 stuff.
Exactly.
Jay, your computer's ringing. You wouldn't get this.
So they started sending pins all the time. And there was a couple guys on the team that as soon as 11:01 would hit, their pin would come in like that.
They wrote a script.
Exactly.
That's
so
what
it's
I would
like,
do.
So it's kind of like, oh, okay. So then they started to catch on to this. So they decided that they wanted to check the security footage from the rink. And there was one time they caught the guys walking through the arena at 12 o'clock, but they already had the pin sent to them at 11. So they're like, okay, well, we got to change up our social media game and our curfew game. So they decided that, okay, now you have to send a Snapchat story of yourself at home with your billet family so that we know you're home.
Wow. All I do to get around that is just have some videos in the can of me waving up my billets with it being dark in the background.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, I'm cosmic bowling at West Edmonton Mall or whatever kids do.
A green screen with a loop of just
It's AI. Nobody's real but you.
Yeah. It's a Snapchat filter you got made.
Exactly.
Billet.
Yeah, the billet filter, yeah.
We just got to the surface of a lot of it, but yeah, we're definitely going to have a part 2 of this conversation with Shawn Belle. Thanks for your time today, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me out.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Have you got holes to dig, earth to pack, and roads to build? Then you need to call Japa Machinery Group. Does your equipment need a service? You can't fix stupid, but here at Japa Machinery Group, we can fix everything else. With a full range of parts to keep your equipment running smoothly. Japa Machinery Group is a family-operated and Alberta-grown business. Here to help build a bigger and better Western Canada. Give us a call or visit us at japamachinery.com.
Every single show.
Japa Machinery Group. Join the family.
Welcome back, Nation Real Life. Wanye, Jay, Tyler Yaremchuk, no Chalmers. We replaced him with two people we prefer much more. I think that's probably fair to say.
Famous people.
Famous people know things.
Winners.
Infamous.
And that voice you just heard is Joaquin Gage. Gager, how's it going, man?
Good, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Past former Oiler number 2. Shawn Belle's still kicking around too. We did it. We took that little break and we were like, well, why does Shawn Belle have to leave?
Yeah.
We'll keep him around.
There's no rules here.
I can almost just step back now. I can give the mic to Shawn and
just step away. Yeah. The Roadcaster Pro isn't connected to shit.
We're going to have to get this room a little bit bigger for Sean's arms. Jesus. What have you been doing, man?
I live at a gym.
Holy smokes.
Well, he did say earlier that he still feels like he can play, and he definitely looks like he can still play.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, my gosh. I'm not going to any more alumni skates if you're shooting. Jesus.
I usually don't even hit the net anymore, so it's all good.
That's all right.
I read you just said hitting the net. I was reading an article on OilersNation.com.
Fantastic website.
Fantastic website. I believe it was someone was doing a review on Smirkov and anyways, it's about Smirkov, about how he's evolved, like his shots evolved from like he always used to miss the net and probably led the OHL in missed net shots, like way wide, and now he's improved that. Anyways, you brought that up, saying missing the net. Like this is a guy who's trying to improve on trying to hit the net. Anyways.
When you guys look at kids today and you're still very active in the game, do you look at them and do you feel sorry for them, or are you envious of them because it's all still in front of them? Or do you look at it now and be like, I don't know if I could have done it in 2019?
Yeah, I don't think I could have done it. I don't think, just because the time requirements to be that skilled at this level. I definitely miss it at times. But I don't, sometimes watching a game, I'm like, oh, that'd be fun to compete at that level again, and do that. And then there's other times going, phew, thank God I don't have to deal with that anymore. So it's, I'd like to play, but I don't think I'd like all the stuff that comes along with it too, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, kids are so much more advanced right now in terms of their skill set. And I was at the brick tournament the other day, and Mick DuPont's kid is out there, and he's going cross ice, one-timers, bar down at 10 years old. And I'm like, that is disgusting. I don't know if I could do that anymore. It's unbelievable where these kids have gone.
Have you ever seen that thing on Instagram? It shows the person doing the bar at the Olympics in 1912.
Yeah.
And then in I think it was 2018 or whatever it was. And back in the day, it was you're holding on by one hand. You have a cigarette going, right? You're high-fiving people on your team. And then you see now it's octuple flips, dismounts. What's it going to be another 100 years?
The floor program was just a series of cartwheels, and now they're doing triple flips.
You just walked around the outside waving to the crowd, and you got a silver medal, right?
Yeah, the progression in sport is just insane. Especially when you talk about hockey, the speed is just insane. The shape these kids are in, and just obviously all the skills training we're talking about earlier off air, I guess you say.
Yeah.
Offline. Just about all all it is just the time they put in to become these skill robots, and then it's just trying to now the problem to solve is how do they apply it. And a lot of people, and that's the secret sauce is how we can teach these kids how to shoot a puck at 100 miles an hour, but now how do you teach them to hit the net in a pro level game?
I remember when just before we had a lot of NHLers in the at the Olympics and things, and we had somewhat of a minor league team going to represent Canada at the Olympics, and we'd get crushed by these teams, and they always said how Canadians they play well in games, but they don't have the skill level as a lot of European teams. And I think there was a balance there where we were, we have to work a lot harder off ice. We have to work on our conditioning and skating skills, puck skills. So I think at the grassroots level at Hockey Canada, they started incorporating that to younger kids. And but I really think we've lost our way a little bit. Just with so much on specific skills and not enough just playing to have fun, you like to see, just coaching some goalies over the last few weeks at my buddy Ian Gordon's camps, the smiles on these kids' faces, it gave me a lot more appreciation of what I did before, because I remember being that kid with those smiles, right? So I mean, I understand I love kids that want to be on the ice 8 hours a day, but it's tough when you see the kid that doesn't want to be on the ice, but someone off the ice wants him to be on the ice all day, right?
Yeah, like do you remember like when you went to the outdoor rink and things were just not structured, right? Like you always had to read and react to different plays. Now kids, they're so structured in everything that they do that when they get on the ice, it's got to be that structure, and this is exactly what's happening. There's not that reading react. And, you know, a lot of times I think there's more and more coaches going to, you know, the outdoor arena style where it's, you know, smaller games and go play. Be creative in what you do. It's not, okay, today you're going to toe drag right here and wait for this defenseman to move his stick, and then you're going to try to push away from him. Like, that stuff happens maybe, you know, 1 out of 100 times in the NHL. But a lot of these guys are able to read and react. They're able to see, you know, positioning of a defenseman or forward and, you know, get them to move this way because they've practiced that, and just having that creativity. I think that's kind of a lost art, is, you know, being on the ice and just winging it essentially.
So what you're saying right now is it's so structured where the point is like, okay, I'm going to go do this play, and that means that defender is going to do that as a result, and my guy will be there.
100%.
And if that doesn't go to plan,
I'm gonna Snapchat him some pissed off emojis in about an hour and a half.
And if that doesn't happen, that player's screwed. Like, you can't make the decision to.
Yeah, what's plan B?
Yeah.
Like, they don't know what plan B is, right? And, you know, you look at a lot of players. Okay, well, Patrick Kane is a perfect example. Like, he's got ultra skill, and he's a younger player, so he's probably been in those situations where it's structured. But at the same time, he's probably old enough that he's been on the outdoor rinks and he's able to, you know, be really creative. And you just see a lot of great plays come from, because if it doesn't work out, okay, well, I'm going to go to plan B and C.
And that's I couldn't wait till the end of practice half the time, you know, because at the end of the day, people are just rifling pucks at me. That's no fun.
Oh, but shit.
Yeah. So I'd much rather play like the little 3-on-3 games at the end and throw a few bucks on it, beers. Yeah, we played for Gatorades, right?
Of course.
So
10-year-old
code for beers.
Yeah, code for. But it was great because if I won, then the guy that lost or whatever, we'd be in the dressing room and he'd bring the Gatorade usually and give it to guys, undo the skates and stuff, and just you'd yell at the guy and told him he sucked, and it was great.
As a professional goalie and you're setting up to take a slapper, how do you quieten every human instinct in the millennia human beings have been around?
Yeah.
When a fucking speeding thing is coming for you, you get out of the way.
The most unnatural thing.
For most every human, it's like, something's coming for me, I'll get out of the way. How do you stop that?
You know, I really don't know. It's just it's a weird thing I can stand in front of a shot like that and just sit there, like, because it's awful when you get hit. Like, you know, it's going to hurt. It's terrible. It's dumb, but I mean, I did it for so long, and you know, it's a progression.
Is it just your training? Like, you just trained it out of you to be afraid?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's funny when I do the goalie camps, and you see the one kid that's scared of the puck.
For sure.
Oh, and then so I'm shooting or someone's shooting. I go, tone it down a little bit. Then you're chucking muffins at this kid, and they're
not helping them.
No, it's not helping them at all.
You got to set the parents aside and be like, we need to have a talk.
And he's out there with brand new gear and
price tags on it.
Oh my gosh, it's so shiny. Like, I go around and shoot pucks at all the kids' new gear and just to put some marks on.
Sure,
it. You know, I put the first mark on that stuff. But yeah, some of these kids are rolling with $1,500 gear, and they don't want anything to do with that puck.
For a normal person, you know, like, we went and sat in the lower bowl of an NHL game a little while ago. It's terrifying. Even if you're in the first 10 rows of the lower bowl, like, if you're watching how fast the game moves to this level, let alone being entrusted to stand at the zone everyone's currently shooting at as hard as they can.
Well, you guys were talking about how the conditioning of these athletes. Now, I remember a few years ago, sometimes the Oilers, we have this little luncheons and stuff, and it was actually at Rexall, I remember, and McDavid was first year on the team, and I don't know if you guys ever go to the horse races, but when you go see the horse races, and they parade the horses out so you can see them before, right? And the term, he looks like a racehorse. Like, there's a difference between a working horse and a racehorse. And seeing Connor and Nurse, completely different body builds from even when I stopped playing. You know, they were lean and not really big up top as much, and just but their cores and legs, that's all they cared about. But they looked like racehorses. And then, watching them on the ice and how quickly they move, it's unbelievable. But I think they're more prone to injury. Sometimes a little cushion can help you in the corners.
Remember when we saw that? Remember we saw that Dallas Cowboy at the mall? Remember when we were in Dallas at one time? We saw like the reserve. Was he like a wide receiver? Or something?
He was on the practice squad. We
saw a Dallas Cowboy. Talking about somebody who looks like they are just bred for this role, right? And he was walking around the mall in Dallas, and like 0% body fat, and like his musculature, like he was just walking around. You're like, that guy for sure is like currently in the middle of a training program of some variety, drinking. Like that, people didn't look like that 20 years ago.
No. The guys were massive, and just benching and squatting and just. Huge. We had the He-Man action figure swings when we were taking slap shots. It's terrible.
Sorry, that was funny.
Well, hey, laugh away.
I have to ask, just because we're talking about the insanity of being a goaltender. What's the heaviest, hardest shot you've ever faced? Like, or who? Sorry,
you can say me.
Yeah. Well, you take it easy.
Were you known for your cannon?
No,
no such thing as bad PR.
Yeah, exactly.
No. You usually backdoor and just tap ins all the time. I think. But there was a guy. His name was Darcy Martini, and I
remember that guy.
He was with the Oilers. This guy, so fun. There's so many good stories about this guy. Really hairy man, like unibrow, full back hair, and like the one just. Real hard shot. I'll get to it in a sec. But
go on about his back.
He had a shot. Let's talk about his back more.
It was my first year pro, and you couldn't shave the rookies anymore.
Those are the sad days.
Yeah. The only team that did was Rochester. They still shaved their rookies back then. But
try shaving a rookie now.
When you say shave, like shave their whole body?
No, just their heads. But we were playing the Rochester Americans, and Kevin McClellan?
Yeah.
He was playing in Rochester. And we played Rochester in Cape Breton, and all the rookies that weren't playing were sitting up in the stands, and they all had hats on. And we're in warm-up. McClellan's skating around, and it's quite quiet in the rink, and he yells out, "Hey, take those fucking hats off." To all the rookies up there, and he saw all these rookies take their hats off up in the whole arena starts dying laughing. But that was just minor league stuff. But oh god, yeah. But anyway, Darcy Martini, we couldn't shave our rookies, so he decided to shave his number in his back at our rookie party. There was some bad screech rum or something, but you could see the numbers in his back until Christmas. It was like you could see it till then. Oh my gosh, he was a great guy. But the hardest shot, like his snapshot, everything hurt. He made the puck feel like a shot put every time he shot the puck. And even when he'd get the puck on the power play, like everyone would just get right out of the way because it was coming high and hard.
And out of control.
No, it was never going on the ice. And it hit the glass or went in.
So as a professional goalie, so you're very well known, you're paying attention to everybody on the ice. Why does a guy like that not have a bigger impact, you think, in the pro game? Like, is there a variety of reasons why the guy with the hardest shot you ever saw didn't have a big game?
He was not motivated enough to be an NHLer, that's for sure. But great guy, great player. Like, he had all the tools, big, strong, could skate, but just
didn't want it.
Didn't have that extra gear to. I remember my first rookie camp right after the draft in Edmonton, and he was there because he was coming out of college, and Slats had bought this scale, but it only went up to 300, and Darce got on it, and it went like flat zeros. He had just broken his back, so he didn't do anything, but he was way overweight, and. Slats was throwing this thing in the training room and goes, "This fucking scale doesn't work." But Darce was like, all right, it was like went to 280 and he was like 292 or something like that. So he was all pissed that his scale didn't work. It was so funny.
Isn't that the same one that LaRock had to get on a couple times?
Oh, it got upgraded.
Yeah. It got upgraded to meat hooks.
Oh yeah. George, you see George? Yeah, I saw pictures of him in the Pride Parade. Jeez. For a vegan, I don't know how many vegetables he's eating now, but
I don't know either.
He must be down at the zoo with those elephants and going into that bag. Oh my gosh. The only thing I feel sorry for when see George is the ice when he's skating on it.
Oh my God, Georgie's a big man.
He's always a huge man.
Yeah.
He was my roommate my first his first year. Not a lick of English. And
when he first came in the league.
Yeah. Like we stayed in the hotel. We were at the old Forum Inn together, and sharing a room with George, that was tough because he was this big, huge man, and he just wanted to play and like wrestle. Like I would come home and he'd be waiting for me behind the door and like jump on me and throw me around the room because I was like, George, stop. But he's a man child. It was funny. Good times.
I love the Forum Inn. I like if there's a book I would like to read about the Edmonton Oilers, it'd be called like Tales from the Forum Inn.
Oh my gosh.
Because the shit you guys got away with there in the Forum Inn, they knew which way their bread was buttered. They weren't going to say shit.
I lived there till Christmas my first time with the Oilers, and it was they had the ballet next door there. So
ballet.
Yeah. I got to like every week new girls would come in and you meet all the new dancers that week. It was fun.
What year did they stop making the Forum Inn the billet of the Edmonton Oilers?
Oh, I don't know.
It was probably negotiating a CBA of some variety.
Yeah. A bunch of agents sat down and were like, did you know that the ballet next door brings new girls in every week?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And then you'd I don't know if Bucky got into it, but I always had, after practice, we'd have meetings at the Forum Inn, and we'd go there right after practice. It was good because we would have a good afternoon, and you just couldn't function after so much. So it was actually a good night's sleep. You'd be home in bed by 7 or 8.
The original arena district. Yeah. The Forum Inn, the strippers, and a bottle depot. That's all we needed.
To be.
And a working grain elevator right around the corner.
And Coliseum Steak and Pizza. That was
that's solid. That's still a staple.
Yeah.
I always found it so shocking with the old arena how they Northlands left the grain elevator in.
I know.
Because this is like our international showpiece. We're bringing in all these NHL players. You're like, we need next to our state-of-the-art 1976 arena a working grain elevator. That'll show them what we're about.
Oh, that's great.
But it was to maintain its agricultural status because Northlands is essentially a big 4-H club.
Yeah, the arena was
funding.
Technically the shed for the grain
Exactly.
elevator. And so it was paid for with grant money.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
The scoreboard at Rogers Place cost $50 million, and the original Rexall Place cost $46 million. So by that math, in the next arena, the scoreboard's going to have to cost more in the new arena than this arena. Yeah. I want to stay alive till I'm 90 because I want to see what a $500 million scoreboard looks like.
Don't you find that thing's too good? Like when you go to a game, I start watching that. If I'm sitting in the seats, I start watching that.
It's eye-catching.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And like I sit high. That's where our seats are, and it's like just right there. Like it's just like it's tough to not watch it. Just like when you're in like Dallas in the football stadium.
Oh yeah.
Is that for like 20-yard line to 20-yard line?
Yeah, it's so.
I got like a sunburn sitting in front of it because it was so warm.
Yeah.
That thing's unbelievable.
Oh yeah,
I would love to catch a game there.
Oh yeah.
It's weird, like the amount of screen time we have in these days. You ever like spend too much time on your phone and your eyes start to get a little bit sore, and you're like, I know what I'll do. I'll watch TV. That'll fix the problem, right? Like, good for me. Haven't checked my phone in an hour. What have you been doing? Staring at the TV the entire time.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're providing people with what they need. A little podcast,
That's right. Well, this is audio at least, right? I mean,
so they can get a break.
Yeah.
Talking about like the nice facility, it's too nice at Rogers. As a player, like both you guys were on your fair share of minor league teams too. Was there one place where the facilities were just like god awful? Like it was just brutal in there.
Oh yeah, there's.
Well, where do you start?
Yeah, this is a good one. I remember just when I played in Germany, a lot of rinks were outdoor rinks, and my first 2 years there, you could still smoke. So in the outdoor rink, so you would go, you would warm up. You'd look, and all these people are lighting up with cigarettes, and you'd go in after, and you just reeked of smoke, like your jersey.
How many people would come to these outdoor games?
Well, it was half. It was like it's their rink.
Oh, it's like an outdoor soccer stadium.
Yeah,
thing?
there you could. Oh, there was. It was in the Mannheim was in a fairgrounds kind of.
Yeah, it was covered, but the walls, like I guess if you had the walls on the outside, that was all open. So it had a roof, but the sides were all open.
You tried doing that in Edmonton. That's the story how 16,000 people froze to death on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, no, but I mean, Jeremy, the beer's flowing at those things, right? And where our dressing room was right above the men's washroom, and it sprung a leak. And so we came in after warm up. You know, you're working hard and stuff. You come in, you're breathing hard. There's nothing like hitting a wall of urine after warm up. And thank God I sat on the other side of the room, because the one side, everyone's clothes got just drenched with urine. Oh God, it was really funny. Tough bus ride home, that's for sure.
Oh. Haves and the have-nots on that team. Yeah. Divisive.
But it was good because you had the double-deckers in Europe. So
the team bus was a double-decker?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice touch.
Yeah, well, the coaches were down, and then the players were all up top. And, we forced the urine-soaked players downstairs. And we
That's got to be for kids today, looping back to talking about 2019 minor hockey and junior hockey kids. The bus rides now have to be so different, because back in the day, pre-cell phone, pre-smartphone, what'd you do? You played cards, you knew your teammates, you hung out and watched stupid movies.
Depends on your coach. Like my Ken Hodge, who was my coach in Portland, he sat, like most coaches sat at the front, coaches at the front, media, everything, and then players work your way back, seniority, older
coolest guys at the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ken Hodge sat 3 rows up from the back of the bus and smoked Marlboro Lights.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go right in the middle of all my athletes and smoke unfiltered cigarettes.
Yeah, so
that's good coaching.
And
well, they were lights.
They were lights.
Yeah.
So he'd be
an athlete.
You're going to Brandon or whatever, and all of a sudden you're trying to sleep, and you're just like, "What's that smell?" And you see your coach sitting there smoking on the bus. And then we weren't allowed Walkmans. Look, I'm really dating myself with Walkmans. Huh?
Walkmans were cool.
We weren't allowed them. He wanted you could read, or you had to talk to your teammates. And so, but he, I think the reason why he sat in the back was he didn't want guys chewing tobacco, right? So,
well, he's blasting.
While he's smoking, eh? Hey, you kids, if you want to smoke, fine, but you can't be chewing on this bus.
So he would get up, and then, guys are chewing on the bus, but guys would be sitting there, and he'd walk past them and then come back and put his thumb right where the guy's got his dip in, and then rub it in and make sure he couldn't spit. Like he'd make sure he just sat there with the chew in his mouth and had to swallow. And so it was I don't think you could do that anymore.
Can you imagine taking a rookie today and just bringing him through a Stargate and being like, "Okay, now you're a rookie on a dub team back in the day. Here's your chewing tobacco. Here's your carton of cigarettes, and you better be prepared to be shaved."
There was nothing good that happened. Some teams were really bad too. Jeez, well, that was tame in Portland. We didn't do too much. That wasn't bad. You have any runs, Billsy? No.
What was the worst arena you ever played in?
Probably Swift Current. Like when I was a rookie in Swift Current, you had to unpack the bus and you had to go down these icy stairs, and it was like very steep. And as a rookie, you're carrying these trunks down, and you got your dress shoes on. So like it's dangerous. Yeah. Like if you fall and you're the guy on the bottom, you got a trunk on top of you and your own player kind of hanging out like right on top of you while you're dead, probably.
I played on the West for a long. My last year I played in PA. So, and I just remember Swift being like going into any kind of city old rink. It'd be like going into Tipton almost. It was just the hard floors, and I'm worried. Oh, my skates I'm gonna have to sharpen my skates in between periods here because this stuff's just dulling them. And Swift was bad. But Moose Jaw was weird too. I felt a little claustrophobic in the crushed Coke can there.
Crush can. I didn't like the crush can very much.
Oh, come on, boys.
But that could be probably stemming from the fact that a guy tried to fight me when I was 15. But that's a different story, right? So
the crush can, I think, like that's like a quintessential Canadian hockey experience. Like when we would go to we'd go to Moose Jaw all the time. Yeah. We'd go to playoff games, and like you wouldn't even have to have a ticket. We'd just stand in the corner with beers, and ushers would be like, "Carry on, sir," like no problem. And just the excitement level, and everybody basically was the stands were so steep.
Yeah,
it was such an amazing atmosphere.
You were standing on top of the ice. Well, yeah, we've got like a lot of connections to Moose Jaw. I got a bunch of family there. This sign on the walls from the crush can.
No way.
For our 4 listeners from the podcast, we've referred to that sign twice today.
Yeah, twice today. But and you know what? We should probably post a photo of that sign, Yaremchuk. Thoughts?
Oh, yeah.
concerns?
Big time.
Yaremchuk's doing emails too.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. See, it's all good.
He's too busy Snapchat.
They always Snapchat.
That's a quintessential Canadian hockey experience.
So is Prince Albert.
Yeah, PA?
That's where I played. Yeah,
PA.
it
You
hasn't
played
changed.
PA?
Too. Yeah,
Oh.
my 20-year-old year. That was. Yeah, it's pretty bad in there.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah, that's probably the worst rink in Canada, I'd say.
And it's still the same.
Sorry,
like they got
Prince
those
Albert.
double seats still and stuff.
Double seats.
It's like Smarties everywhere,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
just-
they're all different.
they're all
Halloween,
different
what's a
colors.
Yeah,
and just
it's weird.
Oh, it's artistic.
yeah.
Wasn't that where they had the ladder this playoffs? Was that PA?
The ladder.
Remember the guy put the ladder in the end zone so you could see? Our friend Carey sent it to us. Remember he was up on the ladder?
Yeah.
Was that Swift Current or was that
No, that would have been PA.
PA in the Mem Cup this year, right?
Yeah, that would have been
The
PA.
guy brought a 6-foot ladder. And
Come
he was,
on.
Yeah, and he was in the end for like the final game, and the usher let him bring it in, and he was standing there on the top. Only in PA.
Yeah.
So does Swift still have its old arena? Because
I
think
they
so.
upgraded
Yeah.
it though.
did they get the league ultimatum like Moose Jaw did? Like if they didn't get a new arena within so many years, they were getting their franchise pulled.
And like 4 different plebiscites failed. With like, do you want a new arena? No. Do you want a new arena? Okay, we're gonna get that new arena. You guys won't stop talking about.
That was the fun part about like I played in Portland and big like the Trailblazers played where I played.
You're at the Rose Garden?
It wasn't built yet, so
Okay.
we were still in
Memorial.
the Glass Palace there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and then we, Seattle, Tri-Cities was nice. It was a brand new arena back then. So, we played in the Tacoma Dome.
Oh no.
And so it was weird. It was like a baseball stadium playing a hockey game, and the glass there was so high that they started selling these telescopic blowhorns. So a guy could sit there, but it went up and they could yell at you on the ice, right? So I remember Cale Hulse just in warm up going by and just hitting like they were just cardboard, right? So he's smashing all these people's.
They encourage fans yelling
Yeah,
at you
oh yeah.
Different
It was
days,
great.
those, yeah.
while they're smoking cigarettes in the stands. I assume.
No, just in Europe. Those were bad. The one there was only another one open rink in Germany in Augsburg, and it was deep in a valley kind of. So I remember one time the snow was howling, and it must have been about -10 that day down there. And I'm drinking water, and I came to the bench in between plays at one point, and my jersey was sticking straight up because I had gone down or something, make a save, and my jersey froze like straight up. Like you had to crack it and bend it back down.
We had pregame skating in Augsburg, so it was still open when I was there.
Oh, really?
And so our coach it was sunny, and there's parts of the rink that had sun, and then there's parts of the rink that had shade. And our coach is like, "Okay, we had Freddie Brathwaite as our goaltender, and he's like, okay, guys, you guys have to shoot from the shadows to warm up Freddie, because if you shoot in the sun, he's not going to see it."
Freddie Brathwaite had an amazing career. I remember one time we were in Germany.
No, we were in Denmark watching a German league game.
And I'm like, we're on like a bus tour, right? I'm like, look at the TV, look at Fred Brathwaite. And he had like a 68 save performance. And it was like an amazing time machine. Like there he was, still playing in Europe, still playing well. A lot of guys go over to Europe and play for a long time in front of a lot of fans and have great careers.
Oh, it's living your life in reverse kind of for me. Like I basically retired, went to Europe for 10 years before I had to come back here and start working again. But it's great.
So let's talk about that experience like overall. So I know you were the MVP of the British Super League.
Yeah, I won the Hart.
No big deal. And then what other leagues did you play in over there?
I played in the Swedish League, the German League.
Swedish Elite League.
Yeah.
German.
Yeah.
Is it called the German Elite League?
DEL.
Yeah, DEL.
And then I played in the Italian League my last year.
Cool. What was your favorite?
Oh, I really liked Sweden. I mean, I was on a good team, playing well. I lived in Stockholm. Like, it was fabulous. Like, just awesome time. And I mean, it's basically the NHL of that country, right? So you're treated well. Everything's so professional and stuff. So it was really easy to perform and do well.
If I'm a player and I'm looking at, do I want to play in the A? Or do I want to go play in Sweden? Do I want to go play in Germany? Do I want to go play? Like, I've been making
tough.
a very hard argument.
Because I remember it was my third year pro, and I really sucked that year, and the Oilers weren't going to re-sign me. And one of my teammates told me, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I got this guy in England. He wants you to come over and play next year." And this is like my third year pro, and you only get in it to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be.
Yep.
Like anyone tells you different's lying to you. So I said, no, man, I want to play in the NHL. And so the next 3 years was bouncing around from American League team to American League team to taking the buses everywhere, played in the East Coast a bit, back in the American League. I got to play on Team Canada in 99. And then I played in all those tournaments, the Izvestia, Spengler, and Sweden Hockey Games, the Finnish Cup there. And I was like, wow, I can do this. Like, this is fun. So that year of traveling all over the world, I was like, yeah, man, giddy up, let's go. And I had signed with Nuremberg in the German league, and it was right before World Championships, and Tom Rennie was our coach. And so I asked Tom at the end of the year, is there any interest in me playing in the NHL? And he said, Gager, there's not, but Edmonton needs a goalie in Hamilton for the playoffs. And I'm like, ugh. And I left on such sour terms sour terms with Edmonton, just because I didn't finish well and I wasn't playing. And he said that I'd love to take you to Worlds, but I got to take 2 NHL guys. It's just the way it is. And you'd be third guy. So you might as well just go play and have, if you're go to Germany next year and you're golden. And I was like, okay. So I went to Hamilton and I knew some guys there. So really easy. And we ended up doing quite well. I think we got to the semis or something like that. And the funniest part was, I got there and I didn't know the situation, but they had to win the last 2 games to make the playoffs or something. I was like, oh God, pressure. And so, yeah, we got.
Do you arrive like that and feel like it's not your fight? Like, okay, another team and another playoff push.
No, you always want to be a player that's counted on and feel like you were part of something all the time. Especially as a goalie, there's no better feeling. But it was the end of the season. Everyone's got their exit meetings, and Scott Housen was the GM, and I'm packing up my stuff, and I'm not even thinking I'm going to go talk to these guys, right? Because I was just like the merc that got hired at the end of the season there, and they said Scott wants to talk to you, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I went in, and I'd known Scott forever, right? He was my GM way back when I first turned pro, and he goes, hey, Joaquin, thanks for coming. And I go, hey, and we sat down and talked, and it was great. And I said, well, thanks for having me. I had a blast. And he goes, well, we'll talk to you this summer. We're thinking about signing in. And I was like, yeah, funny one, Scott. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. He goes, no, seriously, we're thinking of signing you. And I'm like, okay, Scott, yeah, joke's over. I'll talk to you later. And then 2 days later, I got a call from my agent with an offer from the Oilers. And so I was like, jeez.
He wasn't lying to me at the end of the season.
He wasn't lying to me. And so there it was again.
Two-way deal?
Yeah, it was 2-way.
Yeah.
But back then it was good because Canadian teams, I think the NHL dollar was the American dollar at that point. But a lot of times if it was a 2-way deal, if you got sent down to the minors and you weren't a Canadian team, they paid you in Canadian dollars, depending on where your minor league team was. But I got American money on my 2-way deal. So I didn't have that much negotiating power, but I got that put in there. And
because even as like an AHL player getting paid American money, you're living much better than a non-hockey player your age who's gone the corporate route.
Yeah, but again, it's different. There's still a lot of you got to pay for your place. Then you're moving and stuff. So there's expenses in there that aren't always fun to pay. But
what about when you're in Europe and you're making the tax-free dollar?
You get there, they give you keys to an apartment and a car and say, here you go, And
we worked out a deal. For some reason, this shit is tax-free. We can't get into it.
Awesome. Brown paper bag. In Italy, it was great because I got a brown paper bag at the end of the month.
Paid in cash?
Once a month? Full cash.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, Jesus, I might have to hire security to go to the bank.
We've heard some of the horror stories. The guys who play in the KHL, and they're like trying to come back, and like they think they're being set up to be robbed, leaving Russia.
They're coming home with just cash.
Millions of dollars.
A guy I used to play against, and I was with him in Washington. His name's Martin Brochu. He was a goalie, really good. He went to Russia and hit all his bonuses. And from what I heard, he hired security to go home. Like he had two armed guards and escorts to the airport because he had a couple $100,000 in his suitcase going home.
We heard a story about that. We won't say who because he might be listening. Very unlikely.
I doubt he's
in the K though, coming back with like $1 million
cash in a hockey bag,
and people in the airport being like, "We want to talk to you over here."
Yeah.
He's like, "This doesn't sound right at all." Yeah. He got out by the skin of his teeth.
Well, there was John Graham. I don't know if you ever heard that story, right? So John Graham, he went over there. He wasn't playing very well, and they were at a party, and police arrested him. They took him to jail. And apparently, like, the rumor is that the owner of the team met him at the jail and basically was like, okay, here's your options. You're either leaving now with no money or you're going to stay here in jail because you have drugs. And so he just kind of like, okay, we'll see you later. I'm gone. Didn't get his money. And I think that's when I ended up playing with him in Lake Erie.
No way.
That's the opposite of Houston pulling you aside because he wants to sign you.
Yeah,
right? The other off season. Like, this
Yeah.
season couldn't have gone worse.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's crazy.
No, there's no law there though. Back even when I went there with Team Canada, it was sketchy. Like we were flying all over the place and then busing from place to place, and we had 2 cop cars, and one in front, one in back of our bus. Just in case.
I spent a lot of time down in Mexico City for work, and I'd never really been anywhere before where you take law and order for granted.
Oh, yeah.
Living in Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
Like, the police pull you over, they're actually on your side. Right?
Yeah,
and if something bad happens to you, you call the police.
Yeah.
And if you're driving down the road, the likelihood you're going to witness like a horrible crime is fairly limited, right? And I imagine Russia in those days being a very similar thing, like lawlessness. After a while, like you are on edge.
Yeah,
right?
it's the Wild West. It was like we flew in and then we were going to a place, so we had to take a connector in Moscow, and the ticket booth wanted more money, and Tom Rennie was yelling at this guy, and they wanted cash, and he was just losing his marbles, and then he stormed off, and then they said we're not loading your stuff, and then so Tom goes, grab it, let's go, and we went out on the tarmac in Moscow on this plane, and we started loading this plane. So
sounds like a spy movie.
Yeah, I was telling you this the other day. Yeah, we were loading this plane and throwing shit in there that we didn't know if we were supposed to pack it the right way and stuff. Scariest flight in my life.
When I was talking to my Mexican buddies, they talk about how like I was the only Canadian they'd ever seen, and they're like, "You're just so nice. Like as Canadians go, are you nice?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm on the nicer end of the spectrum, I'm sure. And after a while, they realize they're like, it's because no one's ever tried to shake you down. Like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you've never had like a guy in a corner like extort you because he doesn't want to move your bags, or a police officer pulls you over and he's, do you want the little ticket or the big ticket? Like in so many countries around the world, that's the life you lead.
Yeah.
Right? Where you have to bribe people to get shit done.
It was one time we were going out in Moscow, and after the game, and we were at the hotel, and some guys left early, and some guys left the second wave of guys. I was in the second wave, but the first wave got there and they walked a bit, and I think some guys ducked in the alley to take a leak or something like that. And all of a sudden, sirens, cop cars came in both ways. They threw everyone up against the wall and were like yelling, "Weapons, passport, weapons!" And like, we don't have any weapons. We don't. And they took their passports, and then they took their wallets, took all their money, and threw the stuff back to them. The cops left.
They took all the cash.
All their cash. They were Russian rubles.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, it was weird. The one of the
you can see when Russian players come over here and everyone's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they're like, "I don't know if I want to tell you how I'm doing." You're like, "Where have you come from? What's happened to you already?"
I remember the one. It was really quite emotional. The every time you go, you get like a host that travels with you for an interpreter and stuff like that. And so our host, he was a great guy. God, I wish I could remember his name right now, but. After being there we were there for like a week and a half, and we all had all these rubles, and you can't even exchange them anywhere, right?
What year was this?
99.
Okay.
So we just said, "Hey guys, give me all your rubles or whatever stuff," and we gave it to our host, right? So, and he literally fell to his knees and started crying. And he was hugging and kissing us all. And he was like, thank you. And I guess we gave him like a 2 year salary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like he couldn't believe what we just did. Right?
Yeah, I had a similar situation. Same thing.
Yeah.
Whereabouts was yours?
We were in Yaroslavl.
Yeah.
And after the tournament, we gave all of our rubles away, and same thing.
Yeah.
He just broke down, started crying and thanking us, and it's crazy.
You get home to Edmonton at the end of that trip, you're like, you know what? I don't really care that Bonnie Doon's A&W suck shit.
Yeah.
Because I am not getting pulled over by the police
Oh, gosh.
and getting fully shaken down for all my rubles or getting 2 years as a tip when I have a bus tour of kids.
Although, because I remember we would, and Team Canada, we was based out of Calgary, right? So we would go to Cowboys a lot because our training schedule was like Monday to Saturday and Sundays off. So we would call Cowboys and say, "Hey, Team Canada's coming to Cowboys." So
we know just what to do.
Yeah, and then I remember like we went to Scandinavia, or we were in the Czech Republic, and then we went to Japan, and you go to those Eastern Bloc countries. It's tough to find a non-attractive woman over there, right? So we were
especially when you're Team Canada.
Oh yeah, so there was this. We were surrounded by all this beauty all the time, and I remember because you're so screwed up over those flights. So we came home and we were staying in Calgary one night, and then we were flying to Sweden the next day, and none of us could sleep. And I'm with my roommate, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" "Nothing. You want to go out?" I go, "Yeah." So we hit Cowboys, and then so we got there, and the whole team was there, right? And it was just kind of because we couldn't sleep, so we knew we had to go do something. And everyone's sitting there, and we're in Cowboys, and we're like, girls here are terrible.
That's just Calgary. That's just Calgary.
Maybe it was, or oh god, I can't wait to get over to Sweden so we can see some attractive women.
And they're all beautiful in Sweden for God's sakes.
Being like in Italy, like I remember being in Italy. We weren't there for very long, but like getting up in the morning and going to like Italian 7-Eleven. The cool thing on the road is everything's exciting. For me, at least, right? Like, I'm going to 7-Eleven. Yeah, but Italian 7-Eleven. You see what a croissant looks like there? It's all upside down and weird. And walking out of like our hotel and seeing like a hungover Italian guy my own age who's like perfectly windswept and he's wearing like a tailored suit and 6 different belts. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, these Italian guys are taking life serious. Like, there isn't a slob in the entire continent.
I hated in Sweden because those guys, they had so much style. They looked so good all the time. And I remember because home games, we didn't have to wear suits or anything. So I walk in, I remember the first game in my suit, and Fredrik Lundqvist, he was with Edmonton a bit in the minors. He starts laughing at me. He goes, "Yeah, we don't have to wear suits, man." So I was like, geez. And then track suits on the road, it was different.
If you look at like photos of people from like 1910 in Edmonton, I remember I saw a photo. It was like World War II on Jasper Avenue, so even 40s. Everybody has a hat on. Yeah. Everybody has a suit on. If you showed them life in the future, they'd be like, "What the hell are you all wearing? Like, is anybody doing well for themselves?" Like in those
everyone's
days,
a superhero.
Yeah, everyone's all jacked up and like Botoxed and shit.
Did you ever, when you're in Europe and you decide like, okay, so when you go to the rink, guys wear sweatsuits all the time, like sweatpants, right? And they'd go to the rink and they're comfortable and then they'd leave. And you did that in Europe, and the looks that you would get from people, because it's like a fashion show. Yeah. You show up to practice and guys are like dressed up to the nines because they're going out right after practice for a nice lunch. And I'll never forget the one time I did it, and guys were looking at me like I had 15 heads. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just dressing comfortable." Like, it's a different lifestyle. Like, you go to the grocery store, you're not wearing sweats. Like, you might as well dress up. Like, it's just completely different.
Yeah. No, everyone, especially Sweden and Italy, it was, and I played in a little ski village too, right? So it was just really rich Southern Italians from Rome would come up for skiing and stuff. It was unbelievable. The
girls, I'm just imagining, must have been terrible.
It was
affluent Italian ski town.
It was I think
trophy
it was more
wives
of
from Rome.
I don't think it was the wife. It was the mistress that was coming with them.
Mistress.
Yeah, there was a few older guys that they weren't their daughters. I'm pretty sure
they were Russian mistresses.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's just funny. I'm just thinking about the style, like Swedes. Like anything they're doing, they're dressed to the nines. That they're like it's their A game at all times.
Oh god!
Even if you're going to take out the trash, They got their beautiful shoes, pointy toes, nice little scarf, hair, manicure, everything.
I went into a store in Stockholm, and it was just for jeans, right? And they were Lee jeans, and I'm like, Lee jeans? You got to be kidding me! And I put them on, and these things were. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I can't wait to get home and get to Mark's work and pick up like 10 pairs of these things.
Yeah. These things kill in Stockholm, boys.
If you want to look good like the Europeans, then you should definitely go head out and check out our good friends at Indochino in West Edmonton Mall. Custom suits. You go get nice and measured up. They handle it all for you. I don't have all the information like Bag Milk does, but I can tell you that you will get a high quality suit from our friends at Indochino delivered right to your door in a nice box. You'll be looking good. You can go to grocery shopping in Sweden and you'll blend perfectly in when you head to Indochino.
If you wanna look like a Swede, go to Indochino. I recently wore my suit to a wedding, and I channeled my inner Euro. I went no socks. Pants are slightly a little bit above the shoe. I got it all tailored, all Euro. And, put a little beard oil in, and I felt like I was, Sven Downton.
Good segue. Good segue.
Amazing.
We teed that up.
That's huge. That's well done.
Nicely done.
That's like half the battle of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we jump in on and do an ad read?
That's
Or Indochino, and they listen, and I'm like, there's no way they're gonna like that ad. They're like, no, it's good, it's organic. That actually is an interesting segue. So we're gonna be doing a lot more work together coming up in the new season, Joaquin, and like maybe just kind of give our listeners, all 6 of them, what's an expectation of what's coming up.
Well, nothing but high expectations, but I don't really know what's. We're flying by the seat of our pants a little bit.
The nation way.
That's the nation way.
Yeah,
Structure is not allowed.
I like it though. Dusty and Cass and I are going to be starting up a little podcast. 2 guys and a goalie. So hopefully listen to this, and we'll have some life tips on there for you.
That's Matt Cassian.
Matt
for those
Cassian.
who don't know.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Matt Cassian.
It's not Zach. It'll be Matt.
Matt Cassian, and it's going to be video.
Yeah.
And it's going to be audio, and it builds on Dusty's show last year, which Inside the Nation was awesome.
Yeah, Inside the Nation will still be going. I just think less frequent because Dusty's going to be a content machine going into this season. But I think it's an opportunity because we had talked to Dusty, and this kind of came about over some beers on a patio, and leading into the season, like how can we find a way to do more? And this kind of podcast, video, vlog, whatever you want to call it, came to be. And we're like, okay, well, we need to kind of mount a team around this because there's going to be some kind of people's schedules change. Dusty can't always be there, and others can't be there, and we were fortunate that Dusty kind of reached out to, because Gage, you already work with Dusty here and there on his show and do some radio stuff.
You bet.
So he kind of assembled a team, and now we're actually gonna have like a legit podcast with like people.
Hey, motherfucker! I'm on like 144 of these things.
That's it's good that ours is unlegit. That's we're the
only way we know how to go.
Exactly.
But we made the nation.
That's the way it needs to be.
We can be unlegit. Who's gonna fire us?
Exactly.
I'm not firing myself. Are you firing yourself?
Not today.
Not today.
Not today.
Not today.
But yeah, no, I actually have guys that like have done things and
pros.
know things.
Yeah.
But like,
is it going to be interview driven? Is it the news of the day? Like, what are you wanting to do here?
I'd a little hockey, obviously, but
like last night's scores, or
I'd like that. I also want to do a bit Edmonton-based stuff. Like we're all. I think I'm the oldest one of the bunch, but just life experience. Dusty's got small kids. I love hearing those stupid stories. My kids. I want it to encompass everything, and if we can get some like Belsey. Salt of the earth guy. I love this guy. If we can get him on a few times and just, and when everyone has different views on different things. And I know like when we're just sitting here, I guess offline, the stuff that we're talking about, just something like that, that just grows and hopefully people have some interest, and you're taking your dog for a walk and listen to us rap about stuff for an hour. So I think that's great.
It's a weird world. It's a weird world, 2019, right? Podcasts. It seems like everybody has their own podcast and they all suck and that. But like how we consume content has shifted so much. Like I remember when I was a little guy, I'd listen to John Short every night. John Short put me to bed. And I didn't play hockey when I was a little guy. But I loved the Oilers, and I loved listening to John Short every night.
Yeah.
And now how we've listened to our post game and our pre-game, like at the Oilers Nation this season, Yaremchuk's doing a pre-game show, and it's a 20-minute pre-game podcast and 20-minute post-game podcast, and it's really cool to be involved in kind of the John Short of its day. Because we don't have to have millions of dollars worth of physical infrastructure anymore. We need the old Rodecaster Pro, which we were actually pissed off we had to buy, and it was $800. But you rewind 20 years, and you had to have like $1 million worth of Soviet era computer technology.
You need an entire building to house the functionality of that thing.
15 Roadcasters in series all welded together. I think it's really cool that you can now, especially with the platform of the Nation Network, we have a built-in audience. We joke we have 12 listeners, and hopefully one day we do. We're going to build up to it. You know what I'm saying? It's organic. But
I can bring a couple over.
Yeah, I'd love it. It'd be amazing.
Well, and I think the one thing that these guys they actually know hockey, and they're gonna take a lot of Edmonton focus and have a little bit of a league-wide approach, because this is something that we're gonna promote on all sites.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see, right? I'd like to see you guys turn into like league authorities, right? And we're not just necessarily, but for real, right? To the victor go the spoils, right? Like if you're willing to go out there and start putting out league-wide content, and we can leverage hockey fights, and we can leverage all 16 sites in the Nation Network, you guys are authorities, right? And the difference between chumps like us and guys like you guys, like there's a very wide gap, right? Like I'm talking theoretically about doing crossovers left because I never learned that direction, right? I didn't need it in my life.
You're the Zoolander.
No, I never played, right? And that's like the armchair blogger, right? Like that's the generation in the group I'm from. But like having you guys and having your take on things, I just think that for a long time, sports has been really underserved, and hockey in particular, that we have the same 6 people telling us all of our news.
Yeah.
And we've got the same 4 people in the MSM telling us our local news, and it's so filtered, and you never get to know anybody. And at the Nation, like in the coming year, we're going to do a lot more podcasting and a lot more interviews. Like really excited to learn context, to learn about people as who they are as human beings, right? And like understanding that, like, you know, having been to Germany, that's an amazing experience, and having been to Russia is a phenomenal experience. And for normal people like me, like that's just like I'm listening and I'm transfixed. Like you're loading your own shit onto the tarmac in Moscow. Like, damn, you're Jason Bourne.
No, I would like it to be, because when I watch players get interviewed, it's just so methodical and green and set answers, and it's just the same crap over and over. And then I wish there was more players that had the freedom to just say what they felt and how the game actually was to them without having to watch their P's and Q's, right? Like, so hopefully we can provide maybe a little bit of insight over years of playing pro hockey, of our experience and how certain situations feel as a player in that situation in a pro environment, right?
And you guys are going to be recording here at Little Brick.
You betcha.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
If you ever wonder if you can have what you want in life, like, pardon me as I pass Joaquin Gage in the goddamn hallway at work while he goes down in the basement to do his professional hockey podcast, like, you can get what you want in life. Just gotta stick with it.
It's
just like my wife kicking me to the basement.
Well, it's insane to think it's just kind of us that have been around here since day one. The fact that we're going to be launching a property that's under our banner that involves a guy from TSN and 2 former NHLers, one of them being a former Oiler, is pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah. We haven't gotten any smarter.
No. We haven't changed. It's just we just keep yelling.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you guys buying all my bullshit, thinking I can do this thing.
I'm drinking all the Kool-Aid. I'm fully we're Oilers fans, so we drink.
Yeah, exactly. All I need you to do is start every year off saying you guarantee we'll make the playoffs, and we are gold.
Oh my gosh! Well, you offered a beer as soon as I got in here, so it's easy to get.
You're among friends a little bit, yeah.
All right, yeah, that's going to be great, Gage. We're looking forward to it. Shawn, thanks for your time today as well. That was definitely one of my favorite episodes of Nation Real Life. That was a banger. Thanks for tuning in as well. We'll talk to you next Monday. Episode 135 of Nation Real Life is over.